Mora conducts physician-led support groups, helping people live healthier, happier lives, free from chronic diseases like diabetes, hypertension, and obesity. And on our podcast, Health and Mora with Dr. Lori Marbus, we bring to you nutrition and lifestyle medicine experts and extraordinary guests to empower and inspire you with their knowledge and stories of plant-based lifestyle so that you can be your healthiest self.
Welcome to the podcast. I'm Dr. Lori Marbus, and I have a good friend here with me, Jason Cohen. How are you?
I'm well, thank you very much. And yourself?
Excellent. I'm very good. And Jason and I go a long time back. He's got a wonderful story of significant weight loss. But you're down in Louisiana, so it's even more of an interesting place because this is not necessarily healthy lifestyle living support you get. But Jason, let's go back to when you were younger. Like, tell us a little bit about Jason growing up and when things got more difficult and how you started transitioning to a healthier lifestyle and what happened exactly.
Yeah, well, thanks for the opportunity and for asking. I am from South Louisiana, great place to grow up, and the people are fantastic. Health outcomes are not necessarily fantastic. And so, I was a string bean when I was a really young kid, and then as I went through middle school, high school, and then very specifically college, I just continued to put on weight, which is, to be honest, kind of the natural progression of a South Louisianian, male or female, in a lot of ways. So the things that I saw happening in my body and changing were not unlike all of my surroundings. And there's confirmation bias, and everything around you supports the fact that as you get older, you get bigger and you get on more meds, and it's just a matter of fact. It's the cards I was dealt. It's my lot in life, so to speak. And by the time I was in my late 20s, kind of a series of events happened, and then also I found myself looking down at the scale at 297 pounds. And so, I had steadily gained weight. I think when I graduated high school, I was probably somewhere in the 230-ish range or so. And then I got up, my highest known weight was 300, I'm sure, or 297 rather. I didn't weigh myself very often, really at all, other than doctor's visits. And so I'm sure at some point I was over 300 pounds, just don't know it for sure.
Wow. So how did that affect your life? I mean, the sense of what you were doing, was there any health issues that you were dealing with?
I was fortunate in that I was young. I had parts of my job were active. I was not dealing with some of the physical effects of being overweight. I think I know that I knew that was coming. And that was kind of some of the motivation for me making a change and questioning things, because I saw my peers, some of which were, looked like I did, and some who weren't as big as I was, who were having, those things that you think about as far as heart disease, high blood pressure. I had one friend who had a bunch of surgeries because, he had just kind of abused his body, and he was just a little bit older than me, was, similar in size to me as well. And I had a friend of mine who was the first in my peer group to pass away. And he was, I think at the time, he was 17 years older than me, but we were colleagues. And, it felt very much so like he was a peer. And seeing somebody die of a heart attack, he was much less overweight than I was at the time. He looked way better than I did. To see somebody that young pass away and be gone in an instant was a real wake-up call. And so I had not dealt with a lot of those issues. Some of those, heart disease doesn't necessarily run rampant in my family, thankfully. So I hadn't been forced to personally look some of those things in the face, but I knew it was coming. It was inevitable. You couldn't be as big as I was and not think that you're going to have some problems.
Hmm. And tell me a little bit, because the really important thing too I want to get to is your activities, your physical activities, which we'll dive into in a second. That's a whole nother
Sure.
level of where Jason goes. Um, what was your, activity level, athleticism as you were younger, and then into this stage? Because I know that changes with time.
Yeah, I was pretty active, played team sports until I was about 13. And around then I started playing music. And so my interests transitioned to musical instruments and not necessarily being focused on playing sports. And I really, as I got bigger and bigger and bigger, I became less and less and less active. And I didn't think of myself as someone who, which is funny when you juxtapose that compared to what life looks like now. But, I wasn't somebody who enjoyed, going on runs or walks or bike rides or any of the things that kind of make up, the things that we enjoy now. But, still, which there may be some ironicness in there, but, still to this day, I struggle with the term athlete. And
You'll see why I'm
because
laughing here in a minute, everyone.
because for so long it
heavens.
was the complete opposite of anything that I could imagine or what I would consider myself. I it was the last thing. My wife and I got married. We started dating when we were 17. We were married, I think we were 21 or 22. And so we were very focused on, getting married, working. We were both in school when we got married. And I was growing a business. She was a teacher. And so, really from my early 20s and pretty much up until that point, whenever I stepped on the scale when I was 297 and my friend passed away, I was very focused on, being busy as a business owner, my wife and myself, some travel during the summers, and that was pretty much it. So activity didn't, other than when we would maybe go to a new place and do some sightseeing, physical activity did not play a part in my life whatsoever.
So can we get to the bicycle that was given to you?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, when I was 27, it's kind of the perfect storm of things. And I had my friend unfortunately pass away right around that time. I had another friend who, and there was a perfect storm happening of, myself, I was becoming ready. Now I know in hindsight, I was becoming ready to actually finally, confront my weight and my inactivity. I had a friend who decided he wanted to challenge me to a weight loss competition. And I made sure to find the most competitive person I knew. And it was a 6-month long weight loss competition rather than, your traditional maybe a month, 2 months. So I knew that a lot of ground could be lost or gained during those 6 months. And then at the same time, one of my best friends was moving away. He had worked for me for several years, and he decided that he was going to get me a bicycle as a parting gift. And, my first thought, I always say, which he hates when I say this, but, what are you thinking giving a 300-pound man a bicycle? And it was a fixed gear with super tiny tires. So, and it's like, I looked like I had a twig between my legs.
You're a tall guy, right? You're like 6'2" or 6. You're 6'2".
6'1". Yeah.
6'1".
And, I hadn't ridden a bicycle since I was a kid. And I was really appreciative for the gesture, but I was also very fearful for my life. We also live in a town and in a part of the country that's not super used to having bicycles on the road, that's not super friendly to cyclists. And so, I did not think that it was going to have any effect on my life. And boy, was I wrong. And the bicycle started to teach me what I was possible or what I was capable of physically, as far as using my own body to move from point A to point B. And starting out, that was taking the bicycle and riding around a quiet neighborhood or maybe around a park. And then, I'm a photographer and videographer as a job, as my business. And so I'm a very visual person. And the bicycle gave me a new way to see my surroundings that I just, had not seen. And I grew up in the city that I live in, and it gave me an opportunity to see that city and even people in a way that I never seen before. And, I fell in love with the bike and kind of took that. I guess you could say I'm a person of extremes. So, that went from,
Yeah.
riding casually around town to, doing longer group rides, and then to going on several 100-mile bicycle tours, and really kind of opened my eyes. And I really, I've done more things. The bike doesn't play as big of a part of my life as it once did, but I really do kind of credit the bike and that gesture and that gift to in a way saving my life. Of course, you could say maybe one day it would, something else would have clicked, something else would have changed, but I wouldn't want to leave it to chance. And I still love cycling. We live in one of the few places in maybe all of the world, definitely North America, where we can leave our front door, take a right-hand turn, and in about 2 miles there are alligators, and my 3-year-old absolutely loves that. So if the weather's nice, we load up my 3-year-old, my wife and I, and we go ride 2 miles down our road, which we live in a very pleasant, nice neighborhood. We don't live in a swamp. And on the campus, just a couple miles down, there are alligators and turtles. And I'm now at a point where I have a kid, and I can see how him having an opportunity to experience a bicycle, the joy that it brings to him, and all those things would have never happened, or potentially would have happened in a very different kind of setting if I wouldn't have been given that bicycle. And so it's still in some ways my first love, and it's still something I'm passionate about, and I love seeing people being exposed to it, because it's such a beautiful way. If you're not physically active, running and certainly running at any distance can be intimidating, whenever you're big. Walking is obviously great, but a bicycle is a great way to be able to spend a large amount of time, get some physical activity, and also be unbelievably pleasurable simultaneously. And wear a helmet, please. Wear a helmet.
Thank you. That is a very good PSA.
Yeah. I had a pretty nasty fall and fell on my head and broke my arm. And fortunately, I was wearing a helmet. Yeah.
And your scar.
Yeah.
We talked about your
I've
scar.
got a nice. Oh, you can't see it on this side yet. It's about 4 inches long. So that would have been right across the head if I wouldn't have had the helmet on.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. So yes, absolutely. Please, everyone, wear your helmet. And even in places that biking is well established and known, like when I was in Florida, not uncommon to hear about people being ran over, and maybe it's a certain population. I don't know.
Yeah, well, no reason to throw shit
it is
Florida,
Florida,
but no,
Southeast Florida.
and I've seen, there is not, we're getting off topic, but I've seen people debate. I've had people debate me, but I was on a ride with a very experienced group of riders. One guy happened to hit a really bad, just a rock right in the right spot. He fell down immediately, concussed. His helmet just about split in two. I mean, he was on my wheel, actually hit my wheel as he was falling. Didn't affect me. 1 or 2 people behind him fell, but I mean, I've never seen a helmet that badly broken. And the reality is, if he wouldn't have had a helmet on, it would have been a grave situation. So yeah,
absolutely.
Sorry, not to make it so depressing.
No, but people wear your helmet. It's just I could tell you a story. There's reasons, honestly, I'm more fearful of riding bikes just because of patients I've dealt with. So I'm honest, and plus it just hurts my butt. I'm just not I have low pain tolerance. So anyway, well, even the granny seats, that's a whole other story. But Emily, my daughter, she got the Peloton, like the bike, and she loves it. Oh my gosh! So yeah, cool, very cool.
It's a great way. It's a great entryway into activity for somebody who's unsure. Something like a Peloton or a spin bike you can do in the privacy of your own home, even as you're kind of building up the very low level of stamina that you need to ride a bike outside. But if
Yeah,
you're starting at absolute
absolutely.
zero, it's a great way to
Yeah,
start.
absolutely. So then we get to, so you're biking, you're doing this 6-month challenge. Did you win the challenge?
I lost 40 pounds in 6 months. Of course, there was a ton of smack talk. I mean, there was at the beginning, I think I guzzled a half a gallon of water to try and add as much weight as possible to the scale. And then we went 6 months. I lost 40 pounds. He gained, I think, 3. So yeah, it was like the classic tortoise and the hare, like it could not have been more movie perfect. So I did win, and he graciously paid up.
No, very good. Well,
So
that a deal's a deal, man. But
yeah,
to juxtapose, so you have the physical activity, which came first. So let's talk about a plant-based diet. How did that get
yeah.
on your radar, and how did that happen?
Well, that was kind of part, as a kid, I was a really picky eater, and a picky eater as a kid, at least for me, developed into a very narrow diet as an adult. And so, for example, if we'd have Thanksgiving dinner, I was eating cheese, bread, and dessert, and that's it. I didn't eat anything green. I really didn't eat vegetables. I mean, I would eat corn, I would eat French fries. I would eat iceberg lettuce with Thousand Island dressing, but I did not eat vegetables, and very little fruit, and not in any
And no
quantity.
beans. You had bean issues.
No, I mean that is
That's a long-standing discussion between us.
yes,
Yes.
yes. And so I had been, my diet had been, as I've said before, largely beige. It just is, one color, ton of processed foods, and whenever I started the competition, I realized that I could not continue to eat the same way and expect different results. That if I wanted new results, I would have a new game plan. And so I became open to anything. And I would talk to people in the supermarket if they were looking at something that had the word diet on it and say, I'm doing this weight loss challenge, I'm trying to win. And, I did that. And I was just looking for any edge to win this competition as that I could. And so I would, previously I would always say, I don't like this food. And then I kind of developed a sense of, I can try anything once and then decide I still don't like it. But if I don't try it, then I might lose the competition. But
Mhm.
also, if I want to lose weight, I have to implement a new strategy. And so I would, just try, you name it. Hummus. I don't like hummus. Okay, we'll try hummus once. Okay, well, maybe I like hummus. Edamame. I don't like edamame. Oh, maybe try edamame once. Spinach. Maybe try spinach. Apple. All those things. So I kind of went almost like individual food by individual food, and then grew to a place to where I did kind of have an increased, range of things that I liked. And I would, also, do like protein shakes. I would do, only eating chicken and rice, or, chicken and broccoli, or, whatever. I would do anything for 1, 2, 3, 4 weeks to lose 5 or 10 pounds.
Mm.
And with that same sense of openness, I decided at some point during the contest that I was gonna try vegetarian. And I did have an element to me that, I didn't grow up a hunter. A lot of people do here. And I had never really killed an animal. And I realized that if I was going to eat meat, that I needed to feel comfortable with actually doing it. And that if
Mhm.
I didn't feel comfortable doing it, that for me personally, it wasn't the right decision.
Mm.
And so I ended up, kind of with that in the back of my mind, just I had a moral dilemma essentially.
Mm.
And then I said, well, let me just see what happens if I do vegetarian. And then I lost more weight, and that was, it was the whole point. And so I lost a little bit more weight, and then I decided, what if I just cut out, cheese and ice cream and dairy? I mean, it's the classic story of dairy, of course, is the last, whether it's, cheese or ice ice cream. Cheese and ice cream are my two. And And so I cut them out, and simultaneously, it was kind of whenever I was at the height of riding long distance. And I started
Mm,
noticing that I would have these large volume weeks of riding, and my recovery time was decreasing
mm,
simultaneously. And I thought, man, there's something to this. I had a really hard ride yesterday, and usually that will have me wiped out the day after, a lot of soreness, all those kinds of things. And that was all gone.
mm,
And it was, I was kind of, because of this entire journey, for the first time, paying attention to my body in a way that I hadn't before. It wasn't just like, oh, what does it look like? It was, how do I feel? Now I was starting to become more athletic and more active. And so, it was like, oh, like recovery is even a conversation, things like that. And so, to be honest, the vegetarian and then plant based was large in part kind of an accident, an experiment, and just a desperate cry to lose any weight. And I think I lost. I probably lost. The numbers get a little loose in there, but I lost a lot of weight.
mhm,
Let's say it was the 40 pounds or 35 pounds or however that timing kind of ended up within there. Um, I lost most of that just by trying new things and being open. And then, my last, 70, 80, 90, whatever the number is, pounds were all since I've gone plant based. And it's
mhm,
been a, you know, I have, I have empathy for animals. I have empathy for some of the other, causes. But, when at the end of it, at a very practical level, at least for me, it's been an incredible way to keep off the weight, because that is
mhm,
one thing that is maybe a little different for me than other people I know who have lost significant amounts of weight. Is I did not have the typical yo-yo experience that many people have, where they lose, people say they lose the same 100 pounds and gain it, however many times. I basically have had a downward trajectory, and that hasn't changed for me. And doing by eating a plant-based diet, by eating foods that are naturally, have lower calories or more, filling, it has provided me with a fantastic way to maintain my weight over a, a pretty long time. I'm 38 now, so it's been 11 years. And I've every once in a while I might catch myself slipping a little bit and eating things a little too late in the day, or maybe work is too crazy and so I'm having to eat out of town and eat out and things like that. I may gain a couple, when I say a couple pounds, actually I don't weigh myself, so I don't really know what that even amounts to. But you just notice you feel a little sluggish, and
mhm,
it's a very small window that I tend to keep in.
mm. Yes. And so you've lost a total is around 120 pounds ish or more.
I think at my lowest I was, like I said, I don't weigh myself, so I don't know what I weigh now. At my lowest, I would think I was like 170 or 172. So technically, that would be 125, 127 that I know of.
Wow. Wow.
But I probably sit probably closer in the high 170s. Like that was
Mm,
like on a starvation. Like how low can I get?
mm,
Unhealthy voyage or experiment. um, but yeah, I probably sit somewhere in the mid to high 170s most of the
mhm,
time. But I I know for some people the scale is a great you know way to kind of correct behavior potentially, or to keep
mhm,
yourself. It's like it's like bumpers for some folks, and for other
mhm,
people it's just not good. And for me, it's I can tell whenever I'm where I want to be, where I should be, and I can tell when I'm not.
mhm,
I don't rely on it as much as maybe other people either need to or do.
mm. Okay, so now, so Jen is his wife, and Louis is one of my favorite little people in the world, if not my favorite. And he calls me Lala, y'all. He calls me Lala. I love him so much. Anyway, so Louis and I
I
are
like that you
special
just said.
buddy.
I like you just said y'all. Like you hear
Yeah.
that Southern comes
I
out.
grew up I grew up in New Mexico next to Texas. So there's a lot of y'all in there. I always tell people there's the hidden hiding redneck inside of me. Um, but yeah, no. Oh my gosh. Anyway, so Louis and Jen are delightful parts of my life as well. So thank you for, marrying Jen and having Louis. I really appreciate that.
No problem. Glad to be at the service.
I just want to put an order in for another Louis or something. But anyway, but it's been such a joy, having you guys as family friends and seeing each other, and which gets us into the next chapter, the races of extraordinary amounts of distance, which so 100-mile race is what we're talking about, guys. And it's not just, I'm running a flat 100-mile race. Like, oh no, let's go to Leadville, Colorado, the highest little town in the country. No kidding. So let's walk into, how did the running phase start? And then when did the whole I'm just going to go run 100 miles in the mountains of Colorado?
Yeah. Well, as I
more than
before,
once too.
Yeah, I know. I mentioned before, but I would always do anything necessary to lose a little bit of weight. Cycling, although I love it, depending on how you do it, and especially around here, it's quite a time commitment. You have to get all the gear out, you have to get your bike out, and then for us here, you really have to drive to ride, or it works out better potentially to get to more open spaces where you don't deal with as many cars. And so you're talking about potentially 1 to 4 or 5 hour commitments. And I was also interested in continuing to see what was, one of the things that was a revelation for me was I had never tried to lose the weight. I had never seen what the potential was there. And one of the things that was most, I guess you could say, empowering and self-empowering for me was the fact that every time I lost weight, I was proving to myself that I could do something that I previously thought I couldn't do. And that compounds over time. And it developed this certain spirit of, well, let's see what else is out there, which obviously, can be a dangerous place to go if you just keep going and you keep running further and further. But it gave me this sense of, I never thought I could be a cyclist. I never thought I could use my body in that way. Maybe I can be a runner. Maybe I can do this. And like everybody, like most people, it started out slow, and it started with 1 mile. It started with 2 miles, and fortunately, by the time I really kind of started running, I already had an aerobic base from the cycling. And then I started realizing this is a different way to see the world at an even different pace. And instead of relying on gears and a bicycle, I'm actually relying on my own body completely, which also is just it's something to be extremely thankful for. Not everybody has that opportunity to have full use and function over their body in a way that allows them to move a block, or much less a mile or more. And I started running. My first race, we just so happened to be on a trip with my wife. It was just she and I, and we were passing through the town of Leadville, Colorado, and we were walking into a business. The guy holding the door open for me, like a true Southern gentleman, happened to have a shirt on from a Louisiana running store. And I struck up a conversation with him, and he said, "Are you in town for the race?" And my ears perked up, and Jen was like, "No, we are not." And we literally just happened to be passing through. It was on a Thursday. And at the time, the furthest I had run was 8 miles, and it was the Leadville Heavy Half Marathon, which is 15.5 and marathon weekend. And that was on Thursday, and I ran the race on Saturday morning. I literally never run a race before. I mean, I had to go buy a water bottle. I didn't know what to eat.
Wait. So we have to back up just a second, because I don't think people appreciate the Leadville Heavy Half. Okay, first of all, you guys, we're at 10,000 feet, and you're coming from sea level. to Leadville, Colorado. So tell us the elevation gain. And it's like, this is your first race, never ran a race
Yeah,
before. You go
yeah,
to Can you tell us a little bit about, I mean, people, you
yeah.
guys can't appreciate this until you see it.
I think I think for the heavy half, it's you start at 10.2 in the city, and then 10,200 feet, and then you end up at 13,200 feet or 13,600 feet at Mosquito Pass. Um, and yeah, I called, if you're familiar with running and you start to read books, or maybe you listen to podcasts, you read articles, Leadville comes up. It's, there are a couple towns in America that are known for running and or racing, in the same way that Hawaii is known for Ironman. Leadville is a very storied town, and has a huge racing history. And so I was very familiar with the town. I had no aspirations of really ever running a race, and much less running there. But honestly, it seemed too good to be true, because what are the chances of, I know that's probably a skewed way of looking at things, because some people would think, like, I got to get the heck away from here. And, I'm like a moth to the flame. Like, there's a fire, I have to run towards it.
First of all, okay, you guys, let me show you experience as an observer in Jason's life, who, when we when we meet up, this is what we deal with. First of all, we go to Leadville, we go wherever. There's always someone with Louisiana something, or someone that Jason knows someone from somewhere. Like, I've never been with, I'm serious, restaurants, lines, races, I don't care where we go, Jason meets someone and strikes up a conversation. So that just always happens too. If you ever go hiking with Jason, he's carrying this kid on his back. He's got long legs. So Pat and I, like, first of all, we're older. We do at least live in elevation. It helps us a little bit, slightly, whatever, dude. 60 is my next decade. So when we go up into the mountains, it's like, Pat and I are like, we're gonna keep up with that Jason. I'm like, thank God he's got the little one on his back. But anyway, so I just want to set that this is your personality, and the universe lines up leasing. So it just doesn't surprise me that someone would open a door, and I could just see Jen's face going, no, no, no.
Oh yeah. She was not thrilled. She was like, we're on family vacation and we're, whatever. But to her credit, we got in the car and drove back to our campsite, and she said, you really want to do this, don't you? It's like, yeah, I really want to do it. And I called a mutual friend of ours, Josh Lajani, and we, I feel like at the time I had been texting and said, hey, I'm passing through Leadville, and then sure enough, he got on a plane the next morning, and we ran the race together.
That's
and
awesome.
Leadville has become, for whatever reason, and it could have been any town, it could have been, Boise, Idaho. But there are just these things that have happened in Leadville that have kind of, like you said, lined up so that that our next year, and for a couple of years there, so Josh and I ran it that year, the heavy half and the together. And then the next year, we invited a bunch of friends who had all kind of been on similar journeys and lost a bunch of weight. And we had this group of, I think the next year it was maybe 10 people or whatever. And I just kept inviting people. And then, I think at our highest year, we probably had 20 or 30 people who were pretty much all plant-based, had lost, between 100 and 300 pounds, who were out there running Leadville. And, when I was coming down the mountain and coming back into town, at that first heavy half, I can remember looking at it, and the way that the course is oriented for the heavy half, you're coming up, and you're going down, and you're coming down 6th Street, and you're looking at the finish line is here, and there's red carpet, and there's people on either sides, and then directly above are some of the largest mountains in all of Colorado. And I had this realization, like, I wasn't supposed to be here. I was supposed to be 300 pounds. I was supposed to be battling heart disease. I was supposed to be in a place that, I'm not athletic. I'm not these things. And I'm not a super emotional person, but I mean, I got really emotional coming down into the town and down the chute because I just realized, by chance encounter, I was suddenly, it was a huge milestone for me personally. And, kind of, I guess you could say like a touchstone. So I continued, the next year I came back, I ran the marathon, I think that next year, which is, just a very hard mile per mile race. And at some point in there, Leadville is known for the Leadville 100. There's no two ways about it. Leadville is not known for the heavy half or the marathon, or I mean, there are a whole series of events that happen there, and they're like, they have a great series of events that are not related to the race that happen in the winter, and it's a wonderful part of the world, part of Colorado, that they have a lot of other things, but Leadville is known for the Leadville 100. And if you know Leadville, that's what you know. And there was something in me that thought, I am not supposed to be here. This is not who I am. I am a 300-pound overweight person, who is destined to be obese for the rest of his life. And again, scratching that itch of, well, what else is out there? What else is possible? And you can't help but wonder. Could I do more? Could I be more? Could I accomplish something? And I thought it was absolutely crazy. But I was very fortunate. 2018, I got in for the 100 and ran it and finished. Unfortunately, it doesn't have the best finishing rate. Was fortunate I was able to, have a great race, even, in the midst of a ton of, learning opportunities and failures, and ran it in 2018. And, I crossed the finish line. Jen was actually pregnant with Louie at the time, and thought to myself, I had such an amazing race. I had such an amazing crew around me that, if I just go back and I never do anything like this again, and I just go back and help other people finish, that would be worth it for me. 2019, I went out, crewed. Unfortunately, the person who I went out with didn't finish, but I got a chance to help somebody else run the last 25 miles or so with a person I met on the airplane on the way to Colorado. And
I
then
rest my case.
and then I ended up, my idea was in 2018, I finished across, I crossed the finish line with Louie and Jen's belly. And, for probably a multitude of reasons, I kind of had a desire to do it again. And my thought was, I'm going to run it this time with him and I'm going to cross the finish line with him in my arms. So I ran it last year, 2021, and finished again. And it was an amazing, wonderful experience. Lots of learning, new learning experiences and failures. And again, was fortunate enough to cross the finish line in under 30 hours. And it's been quite the journey for a non-athlete.
Yeah. So we're done speaking the word non-athlete. No, and in 2020, we tried to do the unsupported because of COVID, and then we had fires here. So I was part of your medical team that said, we're done with the smoke, but that was pretty intense. But yeah, that was unfortunate they had to cancel. But last year, that was cool. I got to see you cross and have little Louie, and that was just, and Jen, that was awesome. So what are some of the learnings that you feel like you learned from running 100-mile races to life? Like, what is some, because I feel like there's probably so much there.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure that, for everybody, there's a different, I mean, maybe I'm projecting a little bit, but, for you, maybe, medical school, or, giving birth or raising kids, there's things that you do that, when you look at them and you step back and you think, this seems very big and ambitious and outside of my capacity, that when you accomplish those things, it affects your life daily. one of the founders of the race series, there's this gentleman, his name's King Klauber, who's well known in Leadville in Colorado, but also just people kind of know about him because he's got such a great personality and whatnot. But he says, you cross that finish line will change your life. And if you it's a part of a speech that he used to do. I commit, I won't quit. And it can't be overstated how doing something like that, like whether it is Leadville, whether it is medical school, having a child, something that is so hard and so kind of big and seems so outside of what is currently possible, you can't help but think about it every single day. And it changes, when things get hard, you think, well, I've done harder things. When things get frustrating, you think I've done more than that, whether that's, big things and, like life-changing things, or it's just dealing with a frustrating, individual situation on a day. You just realize that, you have an ability to overcome. And, for me, it's given me an increased confidence in myself that, for example, the narrative will tell you that you can't lose weight, keep it off for the rest of your life. That is a very common thing. And unfortunately, I've seen a lot of people who have, I think, believe that and have gone back and have gained the weight. And when you have those thoughts, you think, like, I've done hard things before. I can make it. I can make it through this. And it's character building. It teaches you physically what's possible. I also have to think that it was one of the reasons why I wanted to do the race again in 2021, because for me and for a lot of people, doing something like that once would be enough. It takes a ton of time, it takes a ton of training, it takes a ton of you spend so much dedicated of your time, your money, your training, your life energy, as Jen would say, for 30 hours. And you ask all your friends to come out and to help you accomplish this goal. It's a lot of effort for a very condensed amount of time. And I knew that small amount of time, having a picture of that, me crossing the finish line with my kid, that would give him something that he could look back on and think, hey, my dad, used to look like this, and then he did this. And it shows something about, hopefully hard work, about how it can pay off. We did another race, kind of an interesting race, or run in the Grand Canyon a couple of years ago with some friends. Jen, my wife, tells me I can do one stupid thing a year. So that was, Leadville for both those years was my stupid thing. And this year was the Grand Canyon. And I did it kind of 1.5 times, but on the way back from being done after the second half of the 1.5 times, we stopped in on the way back at I think a Whole Foods to get a pizza. And there was a family there, mom and dad, both hugely overweight, 3 or 4 kids, all hugely overweight, and they were splitting a box of chocolate covered ice cream bars.
Wow.
And I mean, I was exhausted, probably smelled horrible. I mean, I looked like I had been through the ringer. And I saw this, and at the time Louis was, I think, 1 or 1.5. And Jen had given me support and driven out to the Grand Canyon, and drove from the South Rim to the North Rim, and then all the way back down to the South Rim with a 1-year-old. And she's the real hero of the story. Is the
and this is why you will stay married. You admitted that.
we were sitting, eating, and I had this realization that, like, this is my family now. My family now is, a 1-year-old that's going to see his dad do these things, and we're going to go hiking tomorrow, the day after, and he's going to see a person who maybe from the outside looks like he was never big, or at least as a passenger on the street. And that was where I was headed. I was headed to the other table. I was headed to life as, me being a lot more and more and more overweight, having issues. Whenever it's time to do something, we go and get an entire box of ice cream bars. And instead, we have a different life. And it's not just about the perception of being overweight, but it's a quality of life. It's the fact that I can go and do these things, and really whatever I want. I can go and hike. I can go on a bike ride with my kid. I couldn't do those things if I was that weight, and if I was where I was headed. And I think I'm going to be able to give my child an upbringing that will be something that we'll have adventures, and he'll have really fond memories. And I don't think I would have been able to give him that if I would have stuck on that same path. And then hopefully by him seeing me go and do these stupid things, and including him and being a part of them, in some way he's in his mom's stomach, or he's in my arms across the finish line, that it's going to give him an opportunity to then ask himself, what's out there for me, what are the opportunities. And also, he won't see me get older and have heart disease and have diabetes. And I mean, I was surely headed for those things. It's not a way to live, it's not a way to die. And I didn't want that for myself, and I didn't want that, now I especially don't want that for my child, as I get older.
Well, you've not only rewritten your own history, you've rewritten your child's future, right?
Yeah.
Your own future and his future. I mean, because parents, we give so much more than genetics. We're giving lifestyle habits. And I will tell you, this little dude, he's been vegan since in conception. He will come up, and if you're not watching, he will grab the bell pepper and eat it like an apple. I have photos. Oh my God, I love Louis so much. Just want to squeeze him. Can't wait to see him this summer. But it's just his favorite wet food is hummus. And what else is he like? He loves everything, vegetables and all these wonderful foods. I mean,
he's a better eater at 3 than I was at 26.
And you've gotten a little better with beans. I will appreciate
a certain subset of beans. Yeah.
You've gotten a little bit better. We're working on that. So but yeah, that's such a beautiful thing. And Jen is such a wonderful spirit of support for you. And it's just really fun you're just delightful to be around your family and you, but it's just fun to see the whole unit moving in this healthy direction for life. And it's just really cool. But I always get asked, what do you eat in a day? Because people will ask. And if I don't, I will get in trouble. And we should also mention too, after that, if you don't mind, talking about your film and where someone can see that little short film that you did, which is really cool. Yeah.
So first,
food.
Food. Okay. So in a day, I go back and forth between like oatmeal and like a smoothie, just like a real simple smoothie in the morning. Kind of depends on the day, when I'm doing activity. Most days I get up pretty early to ride the bicycle indoors. So it just depends on if I'm riding that day or not. Lunch, we eat a much better diversity of food than we did before. So like, for example, today, I'm not super prescriptive about it, but today I had fajita veggies with kind of a tofu scramble. Jen made it all, of course. Not that you're surprised there. But like kind of a tofu scramble. It's like really simple, easy, over some rice and a little bit of salsa, and nutritional yeast. And then for dinner, I mean, we probably lean most heavy on Asian food, whether that's Indian, Thai. We eat a lot of curries. We do sushi a ton. That's probably one of my favorite meals.
Veggie sushi.
Which I mean, the amount of things that I can put it, we do. For example, it's funny because people are like, oh, that, veggie sushi, it doesn't sound whatever. I'm like, okay, well, if you get sushi, you're getting like, some kind of fish and avocado and cucumber. I am putting cucumber, carrots, cabbage, seaweed salad, avocado, strawberries, apples. That's 7 things. I think
It's
that's
more of
all of
a,
them.
it's a more of a
Oh,
burrito.
it's like this big. It's huge, but I mean, it's so delicious. And then topped with
Uh,
coconut shreds.
there you go.
Um, but yeah, so we do a lot of that and a lot of Asian stuff. You know, masala, like chana masala or gin. There's a little restaurant that we found in Crested, no, in Gunnison that has a dish that we've been eating a bunch. I'm drawing a blank on it. The place is called Sherpa. If you're in Gunnison, Colorado, they have amazing food.
Mm,
But
sounds amazing.
yeah,
Calling.
so kind of all over the place.
Nice.
But and then we do like veggie meatballs with marinara sauce. Funny story, my dad came over and had some veggie meatballs with spaghetti, and he said he tried the meatball and he was like, I don't understand. You're eating meat again? And I was like, yeah, Dad, we started eating meat. We just whatever. We had him fooled with the meatballs. He thought we were eating meat again. So
Was it made of lentils or what was it made of?
yeah, I think it's like walnuts,
Lentil walnut.
chickpeas. Yeah, really, really tasty. So
Cool.
yeah, trying to think if there's anything else. Yeah, we're kind of all over the place. I mean,
Yeah.
honestly, we really do eat much better now than we did ever before. So
Yeah. And it's just, there's such diversity in the plant world and flavors and spices, and you really shouldn't be able to complain about the variety or taste or flavors of the food. I mean, it's just phenomenal. So now can we get to the short film that you made? Can you tell us what it's about and where they can actually view it?
yeah, I had a friend of mine, Mark LeBlanc, who decided, he kind of pitched the idea like you're typically the person telling other people's stories. Mark decided to kind of turn the camera on me during my kind of first journey to my first Leadville race. So it's called Heavy as Lead. It's on YouTube. You can see it. It's pretty easy to find. And yeah, kind of give some backstory about me and my journey to losing weight, but then also really well documents, some of my training leading up to Leadville and then the actual race and all that. So it's less than 20 minutes, maybe like 15, 17 minutes.
Mhm.
And yeah, it's fun. It's a little weird to watch.
No, it's for you maybe, but it's a really
But
cool. Yet again, where were we when those people were we in Leadville and someone came up to you like, "Are you
we're
that
in Twin
guy?"
Lakes.
Oh, Twin Lake. Okay, yeah. So
Yeah.
again, I'm just laying it out there that wherever we go, Jason knows someone that he doesn't know yet, but someone's like, "Were you that guy in that heaviest lead?" And they're like, "Yeah," and they're like getting your autograph. And I'm like, "Oh my goodness, we're in the presence of a star."
It's a little creepy.
Yeah, no, it was fun. It was a lot of fun. But yeah, check it out, guys. It's really cool. We'll put the link in the show notes. And but yeah, it's very inspiring. It's beautiful scenery to
Yeah.
see you running and the drones and all that good stuff. So, but
Yeah.
it's really cool. So, but and you've kept this weight off for over a decade. And that's
Mhm.
another thing is the sustainability. You don't feel deprived. It doesn't sound like.
No, and I've changed my relationship with food quite a bit. It used to be the most delicious, the most hyper palatable,
Mm,
super rich food. And I mean, I I have gone from that to I really don't care. Like people. I mean, I'm happy to talk about food. I'm happy to share recipes. I'm happy to cook for anybody. But on days that I'm like on the road, I literally just bring potatoes,
mm.
plain potatoes. And I mean, every single time, if there's a group of people around me, they say, "Are you eating plain potatoes?" Yes, yes. I mean, I need like a card that says I am eating plain potatoes. But I view it as a little bit of an investment. I'm gonna pay the dividends, positive or negative in the end. And if I eat plain potatoes, and sometimes I treat myself and bring some hummus, if I have refrigeration, if I eat that, I'm going to deal with the effects of that meal tomorrow, the next day, the weeks after, and
Mm.
and it's going to be positive for me. And if instead I say, well, I'm on the road, I'm traveling, treat yourself, whatever, then I'm also going to pay for it. And
Mm,
I'm just not willing to pay for the latter. And every once in a
mm,
while, like I have found in my own way, which is probably far off from what a lot of people's other indulgences are, my own indulgences. And, on a birthday or something like that, it's like, yeah, sure, we might make, cupcakes or cookies or something, but,
Mhm.
they're oatmeal cookies, and they're, um, made with garbanzo bean flour, or and they're still
Yeah.
tasty. And I've moved my goalpost of must have the absolute most delicious, most hyper palatable, to I want something that is maybe a treat, or a lot of times I just have fruit. I just have I'll have a large bowl of watermelon or
Mm.
pineapple or cantaloupe or mango. um and I'm not deprived. But the other thing is, I'd be okay to be deprived, to not gain the weight, because
Mm.
the hard work that has been done, that I've put in, there is no meal, food group that would be worth sacrificing it. It's just, I
Mhm.
worked too hard for too long. It takes you, you can gain weight, at least I can, so incredibly fast, seemingly, and it can go by just in a blink of an eye. But to lose it, it is so hard, and I'm just
Mhm.
I'm not willing to do that work again. If I
Right.
can do my work on the front end and eat plain potatoes, like, okay,
Yeah.
sign me up.
No, I feel like you have such a healthy attitude. And if I could just implant that attitude into so many others, we would not have the crisis we have in the United States now.
And I would tell people it's going to be worth it. If you
Mhm.
would have told, if I would have talked to me at the beginning of this and said, "Hey, just eat some plain potatoes," and I'm used to eating cheesecake and McFlurries and copious amounts of cheese, like, I get it. I understand how it could be tempting to be dismissive about it. But
Mm.
the reality is like, I was uncomfortable in my own skin. I was not happy being overweight. I was not thrilled about that. It wasn't something I was proud of. It wasn't something that sat well with me. But to be on the other side of that, or I think I'm always in process, and I'm always a work in progress. But to be a bit further from that, and to be able to do some things physically, and then also be significantly lighter, it is worth it. It was worth it. It
Mm.
was worth being at the party or the restaurant and saying, I'll just have a water, or saying, I'll have, I have a work client who always likes to give me a hard time, but he always wants to go to a steakhouse and a fancy dinner. And we'll be at a place and everybody's eating a plate of meal, a meal rather, that you know costs a half a week of groceries. And I'm like, do you have potatoes in the back? Can I have 2 or 3 baked potatoes? And they've got tomahawk steaks with stuffed crab on top and everything else, and I'm literally sitting and eating my 2 or 3 baked potatoes. And I'm like, I don't care. Like, I do not care. Like, I'm not going to pay for that later.
I Yes, I have been in this exact situation. And I remember in Chicago, I was there for a work thing, related thing years ago. I think it's even before we met. It was like, gosh, 8 or 9 years ago. And I was literally sitting in a booth. The only place I could walk to was like a steakhouse in the, like, next door to the restaurant or in the restaurant.
Mm.
And literally they have steak knives plastered on the wall and it says customers ate this steak this weight. And I'm literally sitting under these knives. I'm like going, I'm vegan. Do you have can I have this vegetable and this potato? And they're like, really? I'm like, yes. They go, wow, this will be fun. So they actually enjoyed the whole
Oh,
process.
wow.
And they brought me this mound of steamed vegetables. And I was like, I'm hungry, but I don't, there's only one of me. And this huge baked potato. It was so delicious, and some salsa. And honestly, I was stuffed from all the vegetables. You're exactly right. You feel good even after eating
Yeah.
all this food, and you don't, the next day you're not dealing with the consequences of fatigue or heartburn or your diabetic blood sugars and all those other things. But yeah, that's it. That was, steakhouses are actually some of my favorite places because their veggies are quite good actually.
It's also
So
one of the best time. I mean, I don't have to tell you, you've been in the space for a long time, but I mean, it's the when we started, however long ago it was, how many years, it was hard to get stuff.
mm,
You really had to work. I used to travel with a lot more food than I do now, because now
mm,
you can, Wendy's has you can get a plain baked potato from Wendy's.
and a salad, yeah,
And it's,
easily.
like, Um, and then I just, I'll travel with bars, and I know for some people they want something that's on a plate that, looks whatever. But if I'm traveling and, or you just don't eat, like,
Yep.
miss a meal, or you just, make up for it tomorrow. Like,
Hmm. Yep.
um, go to
Yep.
the amount of times I've been in a small town in the middle of nowhere for work, and I go to the grocery store and just buy
Yep.
a half a pound or a pound of cut up fruit. It's
Hmm.
like, it doesn't need to be hot. It doesn't need to, have different textures and crunches or, whatever to it. It's like, I'll eat a half a watermelon for lunch. Like,
Hmm.
that's all I need.
Hmm. Hmm. No, well, if you'd like beans, I have never been
Here she comes
anywhere.
again.
Yeah, is buying some canned beans. Honestly, I could live off chickpeas out of a can, or black beans, or any
Yeah,
bean for that
leaf
matter.
leaf side as well, which I think you turned me on
Yeah.
to, has been a good
Yeah.
resource. Usually if I have like a several day or week long stint for a job, like I've got a
Hmm.
couple of jobs that happen every once in a while, and I'll just order a bunch of stuff from them, and I bring a hot water kettle and a bowl and a spoon with me in my
Hmm.
luggage, and
Hmm.
I'm set.
Yeah. No, the leaf side, they are it's not dehydrated, it's freeze-dried food,
Mhm.
like they send to the space, and you just add rice. But I think it's called Go Leaf Side, guys, if you're interested. But also Patagonia has some
Mm.
plant-based camping stuff, which is actually pretty tasty too. We ordered some of those. And because whenever you come on occasion, you invite us to go camp out. And so we're like, what can we have on hand just in case Jason?
Yeah. Well, thank
um
you. Thank you for
yeah.
considering me.
We'll have to share some. I think we have some extra. If you guys drop by,
Okay.
we'll bring you some. But yeah, no, the guys. But this has been amazing, and I could talk to you. As you know, we have talked for many hours, hours of the day and evening.
Hmm.
But thank you for sharing your story, because I think it'll really resonate with people, because you went from such a, where many Americans are living to where many Americans would like to be, and you've bridged that, and you've done it sustainably and with such a great attitude of acceptance and gratitude. And yeah, and I can't explain to people how you present yourself with such, you're so gracious, and always looking at attitude. Gratitude literally is inside of your fibers, every fiber of your being. So yeah, so thank you for sharing your story with us.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I appreciate it. Thanks for the opportunity. I only I only have got and remain in the place I am because of the kindness of others, and from encouragement and all those types of things. And so it's the least I can do to, if I can have a conversation with you, and somehow or another it gives someone, the kick in the pants they need, or if somebody wants to try and connect with me, and they have some questions, or if I can help somebody out there, feel free to connect with me as well.
Yeah, and you're on Instagram at
Yeah,
Jason Cohen
and
Photography, right?
I think it's on Instagram at Jason_Cohen. You can also, I think it's still up, heavyasled.com. Or you could go to, I think Slow Miles Club also has a contact page as well. So you go to Slow Miles Club and then do
That's
the
your new.
contact page there.
Tell us about the Slow Miles Club. That's awesome. I forgot about
Yeah,
that.
so just after Jen had Louis, you know, life post having a kid, I don't have to tell you, it looks different. And she had been pretty focused on running, and that obviously changed after having a kid. She had a C-section too, so the recovery was a bit longer. And she got off at the treadmill at home one day, and I said, how was your run? And she said, slow miles are better than no miles. And it was kind of like, that is a perfect way to look at things. And yeah, so we make some shirts, hats, cups, just Slow Miles Club, just basically embracing the idea that, you don't have to be fast. You don't have to, eh, you know, you don't have to always be chasing after a PR, that
Mhm.
just being active, that embracing some kind of an active lifestyle, both in terms of what you're putting into your body and also what you're doing with your body movement wise, is important. And
Mhm.
and I think sometimes, in the running world, and And in, cycling world and other worlds, you can very easily go to extremes, whether that's pace or distance, which are great things, potentially for some people, maybe on a personal level, and maybe even for some people to see and aspire towards it. But I also think there's a lot of people who, maybe are like I was, and who aren't active, and who, just hearing the idea of marathon or 5K can be really intimidating. And so, it's just hopefully a space, and some things. Look, I have my Slow Miles cup. I just finished my coffee. So
fantastic.
But yeah, just a way to encourage people to embrace an active lifestyle.
And it's slowmilesclub.com.
Yep, it is. Yeah, and again, that might be the best place to actually, if you submit like a contact us.
Cool.
Again, I have gotten to the place I am because of the kindness and the generosity of others, and it would be a crime for me not to continue that forward.
Awesome. So guys, definitely check it out, the Slow Miles Club. Get some swag and support them, and connect with others. That's awesome. But thanks again, Jason. We so appreciate you and everything you're doing. And you're also a very talented photographer, videographer. So if you have those interests, reach out to him there as well. And so, but hopefully, if you guys have any questions, the comments below. We appreciate you again. Thanks a bunch for your time.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed that video. Before you go though, please hit the subscribe button and the alert button so you'll be notified whenever we release any new videos. Now, if you'd rather listen to the podcast, you can find us on all the major platforms such as iTunes, Google Play, SoundCloud, and even Spotify. If you're looking for amazing resources to help you start a plant-based diet, sustain a plant-based diet, exercise, recipes, or anything wellness, we got you covered there too. We actually provide physician-led support groups to help people live happier, healthier lives and free from metabolic disease. Don't forget to check out our website, and thanks again for watching.